Perfect. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Today's session is on accessibility. I do have a few resources and things that I'll be sharing through the chat during the session. If you have any questions, feel more than welcome to pause and perhaps raise hand, open microphones at any time to address those. All right. Perfect. My name is Julia Martins, and I will be your trainer today. I am currently located in Brazil, which is a little bit different. I am an ID, and I have used Canvas in essentially every role but parent yet. All right, let's dive right in. For today's agenda, we'll talk a little bit about myths and features that we have that are regarding accessibility right in Canvas, and then we'll move on to content. Anywhere we have content and we have local content to Canvas, we have the Rich Content Editor. And then there are a few tools that we can use to ensure or at least gets us a step ahead in regards to accessibility. So essentially we have that SILT structure, thinking about structure, images and media, links, and then tables. So we'll kind of break it down into those 4 topics. And then obviously using that accessibility checker in different forms. All right, so let me go and close my camera just so I have more room, and then we can dive right in. Once again, if you have any questions, please feel free to address those. All right, so first of all, a few things that we see that often come up is that my content and lesson is completely accessible, right? That is one thing that is really, really hard to be true, because accessibility will always need a user context. Is it accessible to whom, according to what standards, and so on, right? So we know that there are certain students that may have certain disabilities that need extra assistance in one and or the other, right? And there are millions of accessibility standards that can be used when evaluating that content. Having the content being completely accessible to one may not be fully accessible to another. There are, again, guidelines in many different places and serving many different standards. So a lot of times, even when a vendor, a salesperson will use that term and that language, it's one thing to be kind of cautious and think about. Of course, during today's session, I'll show you a few tools that we already have available and things that even teachers and instructors can use when developing content, right? The fact that making content accessible takes too much time. Here is when we're looking at the content that is created by the instructors, right? With Canvas and with the accessibility checker, for example, we're trying to have that be part of that process. Obviously, if I were to put a whole lot of content together, the entire course, and then go in and simply revise for accessibility, obviously that will take time. But if that is part of my development, if as I am putting that content together, I am already checking for accessibility, the process is easier. It feels like it's taking much less time. And obviously, there are tools to help us identify the potential issues, which is already half of that process, right? And then lastly, accessibility isn't my job. There is a difference between access and accommodation, right? Accommodation are specifically legal requirements for a student with disabilities. Most institutions, right, will have a specialist that will guide and assist with that implementation and maybe supportive tools. But access is an issue of equity and inclusion. Accessibility will also have legal implications, but also the issue of ethics, right? In the same way that other issues of equity are part of our day-to-day responsibility, in the classroom, we, again, must make sure that our content is accessible and use some strategies to address that as we put the content together. All right. Perfect. So let's dive into a few tools that we do have available in Canvas, starting with the platform itself, right? So first, we have the ability to skip to content or skip a link. Let's say I have here my dashboard, right? if a student were to experience this space with a screen reader, obviously would start right here from our global navigation column. Right here, we do have quite a few links. If you're an admin, if you have student groups, a few things may even make this longer, right? You see here that I even have a scroll bar to fit all of my content. Then moving in, I would have my dashboard. I would have here that three dots more option menu that would also be indicated by the screen reader. Then the list of published courses, list of unpublished courses, list of to-do lists, and so on. So anywhere in Canvas, starting with the dashboard, a user is able to use the tab key. Let me refresh. Because my tab was already right here, so I used it a few times already. Here we go. I am able to use my tab key to have the option to skip to content. If I click on skip to content, you see that it will already identify the main portion of my screen, which in this case is where my courses are housed. So you would skip all of that global navigation and items when using a screen reader. The same thing inside a course. If I were to come right here and open this course, wait for it to load, here we go. I would have that same capability. As soon as I click the tab key, I have that skip to content, and then it would come here into this main portion of my screen. All right, so again, this is one way to avoid listening to the entire global navigation, entire course navigation, and then finally getting to my content. All right. Still in my dashboard, I would also have the ability to add nickname and change that course color. Those settings for nickname and then course color are user-based, right? So if I am back into my dashboard, I do have the ability to change that. Canvas does rely on those colors for color coding purposes, right? So if a student were to go into the calendar, inside the calendar, they would again have those and see those colors referring to those activities. You may even have here that color overlay that would assist on indicating which course we're talking about. At the same time that these are really, really nice and help us in regards to navigation and even communication, it's nice to know that it's user-based. So if teachers have this course in purple, for example, and they refer to it as my purple course, students may not identify or may go to the wrong course, right? In those three dots, students and teachers would have the ability to change that nickname right here or choose a different color. We do give you a palette right here, but users have the ability to change the hex code for specific colors. So students have the ability to manage this and change this if two colors look similar or anything like that. All right. Same is the move ability. In Canvas, we do use and offer the option to drag and drop quite a bit, right? And that is true here on the dashboard as well. So I have the ability to drag and drop to reorganize my courses, but I also have the move to option. And that, again, will be true inside courses as well. So let me go ahead and open that course once again. Perfect. Inside a module, inside the assignments index, inside pages and so on, I do have the ability to use the drag and drop functionality to reorder, rearrange items in the assignment index if I need to change things from one category, one grading category, assignment group to the other. Inside modules, if I need to move from one module to the other, I have the ability to use that drag and drop functionality. But that may not be easy to do or even accessible to all users. With that in mind, we always have the ability inside the more options menu to move to. That way we would accommodate anyone that's easy, that feels more comfortable clicking instead of doing that drag and drop, that click and hold type of approach. With that, we always have the ability to be very precise. So if I needed to change it to a different module, I can also specify right after that certain topic or right before that other topic. I have the ability to play with that right here. And those changes would be applied. All right. move to. And then we also have the indication of shortcuts in many different places, right? So for example, in the RCE, the Rich Content Editor, I will have, let me open the Rich Content Editor really quick. Right below next to my word count. Perfect. So right here next to the accessibility checker and my word count, I do have this little keyboard, and the keyboard will always give me the keyboard shortcuts. So for example, on my F8, it will open this keyboard shortcut dialog, shift arrows. What do I want to do with that? Control F, the element in the toolbar, and so on. So I have the ability to see some of those right here. The keyboard shortcuts, this is even a newer version. It was simpler before. The keyboard shortcut is also available in the grade book. So if I were to open grades, right here on my top corner next to the gear icon, I have once again that keyboard shortcut, giving me a few options right here, what each key might do. And then lastly, on Speed Grader, I don't think I have any activities in this course, but on Speed Grader, I would also have access to my keyboard shortcut. So it will be found right on the top corner next to the grades icon. Do this one. Looking for an assignment, Speed Grader. Here we go. So under that gear icon, I would have the ability to look for my keyboard shortcuts. Once again, skipping from one student to the other, leave comment, change grade, and then use rubric. All right. So the keyboard shortcuts available in a few different places to assist on that navigation when it comes to navigating a course and looking through a few options. Back to the gradebook. Inside the gradebook, we have the ability to use different gradebook views, right? The default is that spreadsheet type of approach. It is easier to use for most of Canvas users, especially because a lot of them opt for or have been using a spreadsheet before coming into Canvas. So we do have that essentially something that they are familiar with, but we have the ability to look at individual gradebook and then that gradebook history. The individual gradebook is much less overwhelming. So if I were to come, I think this one, my gradebook and Speed Grader. Perfect. And then I go into, oh, here we go, grades. Perfect. You see that in this space, I do have quite a few columns. I must do long scrolls to see everything that is in there and then get to my assignment groups and then get to my total, right? So this may be very lengthy, confusing to use. So easily in that menu right here under the word gradebook, I am able to change that view from traditional gradebook to individual gradebook or history. The individual gradebook will give us the options explicitly. So in the regular gradebook, we have to explore and open a bunch of tabs and options to see the settings for view and graded as 0, hide student names, concluded enrollments. So using this view, things are right here. It's much easier to find. You don't need to keep searching for settings. Everything is right here. If I scroll down, I can choose to look at a specific student and or a specific activity. So the filtering of this space is much, much easier and nicer to look at if you are looking for something less overwhelming. All right, so if, for example, I choose a specific activity, that would display right here, I'll be able to see that assignment information, submission types, graded information, and everything is displaying right here. Message students who, set default grade, curve grades. I don't need to keep looking for this information. It already comes in as an option. Versus if I am in the traditional gradebook, I would need to open and explore all of my tabs and options, right? I would need to come into view here if I want to change the status, look at unpublished. If I want to go to actions, that export and import is already displaying in that other view. If I need to apply filters, late policy, grade posting policy, other options for each activity under the 3 dots right here. Again, that message students who, curve grade, set default grade, and so on. So things in this view are somewhat hidden when in individual view, they're already displaying and I can easily use and select those. All right. Obviously, we do have the accessibility checker. The accessibility checker will be available anywhere we are using the rich content editor. So that would be inside announcements, pages, home pages, the syllabus box of information right up the top. For classic quizzes, the quiz details and quiz questions, all created through the use of the rich content editor. And then we'll have that accessibility checker available for us. I won't obviously demo this one right now because it will be the second portion of the session. Other features that sometimes are even forgotten when we're talking about accessibility, right? One is the ability to hide a quiz timer. The quiz timer will be there and available for any quiz. Even if there is no time limit, you will have that timer running for students to know how they're doing and so on. But they have the ability to hide that timer. We know that having the timer available can generate or worsen quiz anxiety, right? So having the ability to hide that timer is user-based. So each student will have the ability to hide their own or have it show. So once they click hide, it will change to the terminology show, and then that will come back up. And then also the high contrast user interface. Other tools that we may also have is the ability to preview documents, right? So previewing documents inside pages, inside anywhere you have the rich content editor, and then for teachers when collecting artifacts from student submissions, right? So we have the ability to preview a lot of documents. I can't list you all the ones that are able to be previewed, but the most used ones I haven't run into. The only one that I know I haven't been able to open are coding. So coding languages, some of them may not display right away. So a lot of times some teachers will actually use the text editor because that way it will just display as plain text. But Word documents, PowerPoints, Excel, PDFs, things like that should be previewed inside Canvas, right? Also in Pages, but also in the speed grader as well. And then media, audio, and then video files will also be able to be displayed. All right. Immersive reader is also, I'm not sure if you have it enabled, but the immersive reader is also something that will be user-based. So let me come right here to this one. The immersive reader will give students the ability to do a few different things, right? So if I go right here up in the top to my immersive reader, perfect. Students can simply play that content, and then let me share my audio so we can all see what that will be like.
Week 1 intro and agenda.
Right, so that screen reader will read through the content. I can change, again, user-based, the speed that the reader will go through, if I would rather do a female voice or male voice. Up in the top, I can change text preference. So if I want the text to be bigger or smaller, do I want to increase spacing or not? I can change the font to something that may be easier for me to read. The theme, so some users would much rather have the dark background and the white color. Have the ability to change this right here, and then show formatting. So in that case, if we're using titles and text headers, those would be differentiated right here. Under grammar options, for users that perhaps are learning the language, they can change and have the syllables being indicated. They can also ask for parts of speech, and then they can easily change the color coding as well, again. If something looks too similar, right? So red, if they need to change that to blue, for example, that is more accessible, they have the ability to do so. All right, and they can also ask for labels. Another tool that we have available is the line focus. So for some students to follow along, having that line focus will be easier so they don't get lost or distracted even in this space. The picture dictionary. The picture dictionary will essentially show them an image of what that word represents. So again, for learners of the language, they can also see what that will be like. And again, they have the ability to translate. If they choose to translate something, let me come right here. Here we go. I can choose to translate a word or the entire document. So if I do word by word, you see here that will say, oh, it's loading. Didn't know. It will give me the word in English in that original language, the word in Portuguese, my chosen language, and then my picture dictionary. Then I can ask to listen. See if as it loads. It seems like things are running slow today on my computer. All right, essentially.
Earth's.
Perfect. So.
Does.
I guess it's processing. I would be able to play it in either language.
Faz.
Here we go. I am also able to change to translate the entire document. If I choose to translate the entire document, up in the top, I have the choice between original, that original language, or the translation. So here, if I click on Portuguese, you see that the entire text is in Portuguese. I still have those highlighted headers. If I need to play the entire thing, I could. If I click right here, I would still have the image dictionary and then the translation back to English. Here we go. So I have a few things that I would be able to use and do right here. Change to original, and then this would be right back here. All right, could you demonstrate how to access the accessibility icons you have at the top right once more? How to access the accessibility checker? Or how to access the screen reader? Yes, of course. So I'll exit right here in this arrow. And it will be available right here on the top corner above the edit option. It will be available in pages. And I am unsure. We were talking about having it available for assignments, but I don't know if it has been updated yet. Yeah, so for every page, you should be able to see it. Let me see with assignments. Assignments, I know it was the one thing we were looking for to have that created soon-ish. Let me do save and publish and see if that will display. But for every content page, you should be seeing the immersive reader. Yes, perfect. So for pages and then assignments, you will have the immersive reader available. Perfect. All right. So let me come right back here. Now we can talk about the creation of content, right? Thinking first about structure. So chunking information, using headings, using the list function, thinking about color contrast. Then images and media. For images and media, we're often thinking about alt text, captions, providing equivalent content that is only accessible in one medium. So for example, if I have a podcast file, maybe I don't have the ability to add captioning, but I have a transcript, right? So kind of thinking about that approach. Then links, when we're talking about links, we want to make sure links are embedded unless I'm using citations. So have that embedded into text or into buttons and make sure they are reachable, right? So we want to make sure that our links are essentially going somewhere, so we're not leaving our students with broken links. And then tables. Tables, I think, is my biggest nightmare. With tables, we want to make sure they are accessible, which can be tricky. The accessibility checker will help us get started. So then it will remind us to add a table caption, a header row, header column, and kind of explain to the immersive reader, for example, how that table should be read, explain to any screen reading tool how that should be read. But if you have long data edited and inserted as a table, then I would always suggest looking for assistive technology there. All right. Perfect. So thinking about this structure, there is our activity for today. Considering you are all admins, I will invite you to complete the activity. If you rather watch, take notes, and ask questions, that is completely fine. Just let me know. All right. Essentially, we do have this file right here that will be giving us, let me copy and paste this right here. That will be giving us text that we can use for our hands-on activity. So ability demo text. So paste the text in the chat. Essentially, you'll be looking at this text file. All right. In this file, we will find a number of mistakes and things that should be adjusted and edited. And this is what we would be working through today. All right. I could easily either select all or highlight everything. Here we go. And then I would go ahead and copy this content right here. And then back to Canvas, I would open a page or an announcement anywhere I do have the rich content editor. I think I'm used to doing it inside Pages. In this space, I will use the HTML editor, it's found right next to the word count. Perfect. And then right here, I will paste in what I have just copied. All right. If I go back, you see now that I have plain text, I have some images, I have some tables, and a few different things for us to try and use. You may notice that I already have a few issues right here. I am looking at 9 issues as it stands, and those that are being indicated, there are more in this space that I want to fix. But I would invite you to go through those steps, and then we can work on it together. So using that link to copy and paste that content into a page. If you rather do it inside an announcement, anywhere that you do have the rich content editor, that would be okay as well. So I'll wait for you to let me know once you have completed, and then when we're ready to move on. Let me know once you have that pasted in. Perfect. All right, Rachel's done. Good, perfect. All right. All right. Now that we are in this space, essentially we want to reinforce best practices when it comes to that structure, right? So up in the top, you see that I have a few indications. For example, that this would be a page title. You see here that I have the number 2. Here, once again, I have the number 2. As it comes to the text, here you have an introduction to that topic of ethanol. And then, however, issues that might arise as production grows include, and this would give me an indication or a feeling that whatever I have after should be a list, right? If I scroll down, another thing that is fairly common right here, you see that in this case, the user edit those circles, but they're not using a list function. And how do I know that? As I come right here, you see right down here in the bottom, it will simply indicate a P as this is a paragraph. If this was a list function, and let me highlight this space and turn this into a list. Maybe I want bullet list, numbered list, letter list, Roman numerals. I'll just use this option for the squares. I'll see that it doesn't fall in as a list. Once I do have a list, and when I do have a list, it will tell me right here that this is using a list functionality. All right. So that UL and LI will stand for that list. So in this case, I could easily fix that right here. You see that that is coming in as an icon. How easily I can simply delete that, remove extra spacing. There we go. Now fixing my information right here up in the top. So I have my title. I want to make that my title. So I'll copy this right here and paste it right above where it does say page title. And then I can delete this from this space. One thing that is really common as your teachers start to use Canvas is that they will add a page title right here up in the top and then repeat that title in this text box. Why is this a common issue? If we were using and creating any other document type, right? So with Google Documents, with Microsoft Documents, the title itself usually does not display inside the text, right? So when we think about title, we're using the title as the document title and the text title. So as I add my title right here up in the top, it will display as part of that page. So I don't need to duplicate or add this in this space once again. All right. So one thing that is good to know and perhaps advise your teachers on. On those numbers, as I have here the number 2, I added this because I want this portion, this introduction and objectives, to be used as my heading 2. When it comes to the headings, you also see that I don't have a heading for title, right? If I were to be using a document such as Microsoft document, Google document, usually I do have the option to create and apply the settings for titles. In this case, I will start with heading 2. So heading 2, 3, and 4. Go ahead and do my heading 2 right here. Remove that number. As I scroll down, I see here that ethanol should be the same thing. I'll make it a heading 2. Remove that text. If I scroll down, I have one more right here for my heading 2. Perfect. I'll remove this right here. Then in this case, I have a heading 3, for example. Heading 3, perfect. And then I can remove the number 3. All right. When using headings, it is important for screen readers to know that essentially we are creating sections, right? So we're breaking this down and how that is structured, right? As you saw with the screen reader, those headings can also be indicated. Why is this better than just boosting the font size and then adding a bold, right? When we are using those, they are essentially used and created to represent something else. So bold, italic, underline, those will give different views, right? So the emphasis that a screen reader will do will be different depending on each case. So at the same time, that does give us visual cues. How does this impact when we're not using the visual and we're simply listening to that content, right? So the tone that is used and so on, all of that will impact the user experience in this case. All right. One thing that is often mentioned as well, if, for example, this is my heading and I want this to be almost an intro. A lot of times users can get click happy and be like, well, if that is heading 2, maybe I will add this as heading 4. Automatically, you see that my issues changed from 9 to 11, right? Because this is a full paragraph. Full paragraphs shouldn't be used as headings. So that is one other thing that our accessibility checker will flag. If I come right here, first is that I shouldn't skip the level. So I went from a 2 to a 4. In that case, I should actually go to a 3, right? So I can fix the hierarchy or remove that heading style. And if I go next, it will tell me that the heading should not go above 120 characters, right? So here in this case, I can change that easily back to paragraph, hit apply, and then it will get me to my next issue. So a few things that can be used and checked right here. Now I'm back to paragraph, as you can see here with that P, also here on my settings. And then I'm back to 9 issues only. All right. Let me go ahead and look here. I am indicating the issues that may arise. Another thing that is often seen is that users will create lists like this, right? They will use icons. Some may even, so for example, here on my equation editor, I can find icons. Take a second, and then that can be edited in. I can even use, so in here, the equation editor in miscellaneous, I can find a whole bunch of cool icons to create lists and hit done. See that that icon will come in, right? The issue with using those different characters or icons to create a list is that, again, the screen reader wouldn't interpret this as a list. Again, if I check right here in the bottom, I will see that I'm looking at a P instead of that ULLI indicating a list. My issues also came from 9 to 10, telling me that the list should be formatted as a list. I can easily ask that to format this as a list. You see that it's highlighting that portion. I'll hit apply once again. So it's kind of signaling where that issue is. I can hit apply again. And then the last one, I added so many icons that it's even disconsidering that. All right. So another issue that can be flagged and indicated is the incorrect use of a list or the incorrect creation of a list with different icons. So to create lists, I can easily highlight that segment. I can do it either under format. Format, heading, inline. Oh, I don't have it here. Oh, okay. So I can do it under here on the 3 dots, choose the bullet list, another option for bullet list, the squares, and then numbered list, letters, or here my Roman numerals. Let me go ahead and do this one. This should not be this portion. Here we go. Do one more. Perfect. And as it becomes a list, the spacing is also corrected. All right. So these are a few of the issues that I already have inside my text. So I'll ask you to go ahead and apply the headings. So as according to those numbers, right? So the 2, the 3, and so on. Fix the list functions. You may already find others right below. So we have a tried portion that will address some of the things that I didn't do. And then you can explore those as well. All right, I'll give you a few minutes. And once again, I'll ask you to let me know once you have applied those. So apply appropriate headings and then fix and create those lists. So in our acronym, the next thing that we will have are the images, right? So images and media. Images, if the images do not have alt text, that will also be indicated in the accessibility checker. And it's also prompted. So if I am inserting an image right away, I use the insert option, image, upload image, and I choose something from my device, for example. So here I have my Canvas logo. As I scroll down, I have here the prompt to add an alt text right away, right? One of the things that is usually happens due to misinformation is that users will add image of X, Y, and Z, right? We don't need to do that. We will simply add a description of what that image is, considering the context, right? So if I have an image of a panda, right? An image of a panda can be used in many different contexts. It can be when I'm talking about Canvas, as it is our logo, it is our mascot. I can use it when I'm talking about China, when I'm talking about bamboos, when I'm talking about animals, and so on. So I can describe the image itself and kind of contextualize that image. We always have the option to set as a decorative image. The option to set as a decorative image will completely ignore the existence of that image when a screen reader is going through it, all right? Why is this good and why could this be an issue? It's good because sometimes I'm using an icon, or I have a simple banner up in the top that is one plain color, nothing super exciting. I can simply say decorative image and that will be ignored. But sometimes my users may be working with someone that is experiencing that content visually. And then that can become an indication or even a reference point, right? So here, do you see that paragraph right below that image? If it is set as a decorative image, the student, the user that is using a screen reader would not know that that image is there, right? So that is one point to consider. Again, as I am uploading an image, this option to do the alt text will be right here, and it's harder to miss if you do scroll. If I simply add this right here and hit submit, I may not know that I have the option to add the alt text, but I do need to scroll a little bit, all right? The other option we have is the URL. If I add an image as a URL, which can easily be found, so if I do panda image, I can do here, go to Google Images, use the tools for usage rights, Creative Commons license, have here Quick Panda. I can easily look for that image address, and I can bring this image right inside my course, right? So I'll paste right here. Perfect. And then again, it will prompt me to add my alt text. Sometimes it will look here grayed out as it is already checked to use decorative image, and then it can submit without thinking about or adding that alt text. Now, for images that are already inside the content, right? Maybe there was a course migration import, or it is a template that was created by the institution, and I want to check if there is an alt text right here. I can easily go into an image and then use image options. And then I have the ability to change or set the alt text right here. All right, so let me delete this cute panda and do our examples right here. So maybe I want to do this ethanol plant. I would just copy this right here, select the image, choose image options, and then I can paste this right here. Maybe I want this to be capital P. And then I can hit done. Now I went one issue down, my image does already have that alt text. All right, again, I can be more explicit, right? So I can see, I can say ethanol plant in X, Y, and Z state. I can be more descriptive if I would like, or if I see fit. there are other images right here that you are able to practice and add that alt text. All right. Again, the alt text will also be, let me go down, will also be indicated with the accessibility checker. Here, for example, images should include an alt text attribute describing the image content. I can easily add this right here or set as decorative image and then hit apply. Another thing that is really, really common, especially if I'm importing from my device, is that the title of that image or the file name that I have it on my device will automatically come in as the alt text. And in that case, it will indicate that it already has an alt text, but then essentially we could or would need to remove the extension line and things like that. All right. So the next option and the next activity we have is for those images, right? So write and apply that alt text for the images we do have. You can either simply click on the image and do image option or kind of find that issue in the accessibility checker. Again, let me know when we're ready to move on to the next portion. Perfect. All right. It looks like we're done. Perfect. So we talked about images. We won't have an activity for captioning, but I do want to show you really quick how that can be done, right? We do have Studio, as I'm aware, and I'm doing the Studio session later today. So with Studio in Canvas, you can automatically have those captioned, and then that's really easy to manage, no need for any extra work. But if for some reason your teachers are using the insert media and then upload and record media right here, they would be able to add those captions if needed. So let me go ahead and record a quick video. So here I am again. I can easily record something really quick. Hello, quick demo. Pause, I'll just call it demo video. Here we go, save media. As that was recorded right inside the Reach content editor, I don't have the option to ask Canvas to automatically caption it as I will in Studio. So if we are using Studio, which I would definitely advise towards, that will be taken care of. If we're not using Studio and I cannot request those, in this case, I can do video option. So the same thing, clicking on that video, over here, click on that video, do video options. And here I have the ability to change the title if needed, sizing, I can personalize that sizing, and then import or upload my closed caption file. All right. In this case, Canvas would automatically generate that for me, but I am able to specify which language we're talking about. I guess we'll just go with Canadian. I can then choose that caption file. You'll navigate out to my device and look for that SRT or web VDT file to be attached. If not, then we can easily provide a file transcript and just add here, transcript. I can easily highlight this and then insert a document that would contain that information, right? So let me just I'll just choose a random file, upload, and then as the video plays right below, my students would have the ability to download the transcript if for some reason they can't listen to the content. All right. So one option we have right here. Again, if you're using Studio and your teachers are using Studio, the transcript can automatically be generated that way. All right. Perfect. So at this point, we talked about our structure, right? So text, we talked about images, media, and now we can quickly talk about links. Here I have links as part of my citation. And again, this will be your own policy if for citations you would rather have the full link, or if you want teachers to have that embedded as well. The issues with links is that screen readers would read through content. So they will always indicate that there is an external link, but they will read character by character what that says, right? So here, image from Wikimedia Commons, ethanol plant, HTTPS, and so on. That can be fairly painful and not helpful at all, right? Because then when it comes to the content, depending on how that URL is structured, some things may be spelled out letter by letter, some may become one single word, and then a few things may be lost or miscommunicated that way. All right. For links, we can easily use the insert link and then external link tool to have those embedded. If the link is already here, as I do have in this case, I can easily go into link options and change the text that is representing this link. So maybe I can say, maybe I want it in parentheses, and I can say source, image source, image source. I can do done, and then now that is adjusted. So the link is still there, I'm still giving it credit, but as my readers go through, it will say image from Wikimedia Commons ethanol plant, parenthesis link, image source, right? So my students will then know that here's the image source without having to listen to the HTTPS and so on. That will be true for any other links. If I paste a link right in. So for example, I have here that URL for this course. As I paste right in, it will look like it is simple text. As I hit space key, that will automatically become a live link, right? With that in mind, some users just think that it's easier. And then maybe they're like, well, I want to adjust this. So then they come right here and they say course. Well, now it removed everything. What should I do? So with links, the link options, if the link already exists, it's really easy to manage, or they can easily add the text ahead of time, right? So for example, I can do course link, can highlight this, use the insert link, external link, and then I can paste the link right here, right? So I have a few different ways to go about it. Considering we are using links and looking at links, you see that for every live link, obviously the color will change. This can be personalized and adjusted on your theme as well. And it does use blue universally because it is an accessible color. So for example, red wouldn't be as accessible as blue, for example. But the underline functionality also is attached to and most commonly used for live links, right? So that is one other reason for us to not to use underline on things that are not links, right? So if a student will see something right here, for example, and I can easily change this color, here you go, this font color to blue and have it underlined, then my students may think this is a link when in case it's not, and I simply use different functionalities right here. All right, so the two things to know when using links is using that hyperlink. And another tool that is really cool about Canvas is that inside the link, we can use course link. Course link will give you access to any space, anything that is local to Canvas, so pages, assignments, quizzes, and even your navigation menu. Those items are also available right here. And up in the top, you can change to files as well. So you would be able to link out to your course files. All right. So the two options we have right here. When using course links, one thing that is good to know is that if your teachers are using this as an option, I would advise to not have the text added ahead of time. And why is that? You'll see here that I have my week 1 intro and agenda and week 2 overview. What if I wanted to link out to week one intro and agenda. And I can say week 1 intro and agenda. You see that the and right here is different in the and that I would see inside my modules, for example, right? If I highlight this area and then link out, it will be exactly as I typed. But if I simply have my cursor in the correct place and select that option, the text will automatically come in. This way, with the text automatically coming in, it will be exactly the same text. So I have less chance of a typo, or I'm representing something different. If I am using a naming convention, that naming convention would again be carried through. So I have the ability to change a few things. And again, for every link, I can simply select that option, do link options, and have the ability to update and change link or the text that is being displayed. If you have multiple links, you can easily select all and use the option to under insert. You always have the ability to remove link or links as well. So if you are removing links, you have the ability to remove more than one at a time. All right. Perfect. So that will get us to the next activity. Use those links, and you can even do add a document, add an image, anything like that. Write a descriptive text, a lot of times avoiding that link, right? Like I use image source, things like that, and not syllabus link right here, or article link right here, things like that. And then add that description within that URL, again, simply using the link option or selecting the text. And there is a keyboard shortcut that is Command or Control K, and that will also give you the ability to add a link right there. I'll wait for you to give me the go ahead in the chat before we move on to the next portion. All right, perfect. The next thing we want to talk about are tables, right? As I mentioned, tables can be difficult to work with. A lot of times tables can be misused, and this is one example of that, right? So you see here that as I look at the image, and even as I look at the image, it may be confusing, but this image right here was created and thought out as users would read. Basement toilets must flush up, right? So we have a little bit of a joke right here, kind of reading as that pipe would go right up in case of a toilet being located in the basement, right? But again, visual users, it may already be confusing. Imagine for someone that is simply listening to this content. Tables themselves will already have a structure, right? So they would read exactly how we would read a paragraph, right? So from side to side, and then go to the following line as in the bottom column, row. Here we go. It would go to basement, blank, blank, up, toilets, image, flush, blank, blank, must, blank, blank. If this image had an alt text, then it would say toilet image or image of a toilet, flush, must, right? So it wouldn't make a whole lot of sense. And it would be even more difficult to understand the joke that was added right here. What could have saved it would be if I have added a captioning saying exactly what we had inside this table, but still that user would still listen to this text, or even basement up, toilet image, flush, must. Still fairly confusing, right? So how can I use, and how should I use tables? So we do already have a few tables added to our document. Right here. You see that here I already have a title for that table, but I most likely do not have that added as caption. Let me copy this. My suggestion when using tables is always to use the accessibility checker. At the minute a table is added, automatically you have two issues. Again, some of the issues may be taken care of as you go, but some of them we may miss out or forget about, right? So I will always use the accessibility checker. First, it will tell me that that table must include a captioning. So in this case, with the file that I provided, the title here with the table 16 will have that text. You can easily copy out that text and then hit apply. Once you apply, it will appear here right at the top, right? I want to add here table 16, keep it in here and then delete it as a text. I can easily do so. The caption will automatically be displaying. So as you use the accessibility checker, it will opt on having that display. You can easily change that out and then hide this caption, which would still be accessible through the use of the table tools, all right? But at this point, I'll have it displaying. And then the other issue I have is that I must set a header. The use of headings will assist and guide the screen reader on how it should read the content of this table, right? So in this case, you do see that I have here my labels as my columns and as my row right here. I can easily select to have a header row and a header column. In that way, the table will read crops, food grains, total changes from 48 to 2011, 84. Crops, feed crops, changes from 48, 2011, 129. That way, screen reader will know exactly how to go about and how to navigate this table and provide this content to those readers. So we'll always read here the corner, what that title is, within the row, and then on that initial column, content. And then again, crops, food grains, the growth rate, and then the content. So essentially, it's giving the location of that cell and then reading the cell content, right? So I know here will be in this row and then in this column, and then this is the content. So having that set header will essentially guide out the screen reader, and it will also help the user who is reading through that content. I'll go ahead and I hit apply, and then here it will navigate out the other issues. All right, and this one, I can go through the same thing. Here, add my caption, hit apply, and once again, I want the row and column. You see that the look and feel of it will also change. For visual learners, having this distinct visual, having it bold, having it actually using the headings will also assist on how this will be seen. All right. As I mentioned, let me come all the way down. You see that right now I currently stand at 4 issues. As soon as I add a table, it will go to 6. So as I mentioned, every time you add a table, you start off with 2 issues. For tables, beyond the use of the accessibility checker, when you have a table created and you select that table, you have here the link and the shortcut to table properties. It will be that very first icon. When I am looking at table properties, here I can hide that caption if I would like. I can change cell padding, cell spacing, border width. So I would usually add 1 if I want that border to show. Can change the alignment. And then in advanced, I can change the style of the border, color, and then color of the background of the cells. Important to note that even though I do not have row and cell properties here inside the shortcut, I can still go under table, cell, let me go to a cell, table, cell properties, or do row and then row properties. Here in row properties, I could change if this is a header, body, or footer, so I can continue that setting. And in advance, I would have the same options as I had for the full table. Same thing here, row properties, the row type. Once again, column, and then column is the only one I don't have the column properties. And then table properties found here in the dropdown as well. All right, so this is usually missed using that table property or cell property and then row property if needed. All right. Perfect. So I'll give you a few minutes to work through those settings and exploring those as well. Getting to know what is available usually helps us provide guidance as well. Once again, I'll ask you to let me know once you completed the activity and play with the accessibility checker a little bit as well, as this is our wrap-up activity. All right, perfect. Here we go. So at this moment, we do have some time to address any questions. I also would like to share with you, and I have it posted in the chat, a few community guide resources that can assist you as you use accessibility, as you have to share out and spread awareness about accessibility in Canvas as well. So first one, we have, what are the the Canvas accessibility standards, right? So a lot of the topics that I got to today will be addressed and laid out right here, such as our options to kind of skip in that navigation, the ability to move content, our keyboard shortcuts, and then our overview of our accessibility features going beyond the things we talked about today, right? So the calendar, the chat will have accessibility features, the font sizing, why we go with the font we go with, the size we go with for our defaults, the gradebook options, the attempts and the accommodations we have available for quizzes and new quizzes as well. All of that is addressed in detail in this space as well. Again, it's third-party tools, how Canvas goes about all of that as well. Then we have a quick course accessibility checklist. This one goes through that structure we talked about. So adding the alt text, using the accessibility checker, the descriptive hyperlinks, how we can add the hyperlinks, using headings, where those are available in our rich content editor, the ability to use lists and formatting those as they should be formatted, using tables, and another resource here on the use of tables, how I can create a table with the rich content editor, adding a caption, header row, header column, and then how I can emphasize text, right? So using bold, italic, and underline, and how those would be represented and emphasized in a screen reader. And then the last resource I shared with you is how to use the accessibility checker as an instructor, right? The accessibility checker will be available anywhere we have the rich content editor. So our suggestion is to always use it as the content's being built, right? Not wait until the entire course is ready to then go back and start double checking all of that content. Unfortunately, we only have access to the accessibility checker as you are in edit mode. So simply by looking at the content, you won't have a note or already a few mentions of what could be an issue. Here, it will give you a few things that will be flagged, that will be indicated, and some of the error in the messages you may see with the use of the accessibility checker, right? Some that we haven't demoed today would be for contrast. So if the content and the background, text color, and then and background, such as the highlighting function, if those are not meeting a certain contrast ratio right here, then Canvas will tell you to adjust. And as you may have noticed, changes can only be applied once that accessibility rule has been met. So for example, if I come right here And I have here this test content for accessibility in a different font color. What if I come right here and I apply this background? You see that it is fairly difficult to read. So I can navigate out right here where it will tell me that this minimum contrast ratio is not met. If I move right here to something that is still not accessible, and the text will change as I play around with this palette, if it is still not accessible, not meeting that ratio, I cannot hit apply. You see that this apply key will be grayed out and disabled until I go to a tone that is accessible. So either something really dark, then I can hit apply, or in this case, if I go to that other extreme and use white, for example, then it will be accessible. And in that case, I can hit apply. All right. So the same thing, if I don't fix the issue, I will not be able to hit apply. Let me just quickly fix some of that content, apply a few different things. Here we go. Once I have addressed all of the issues, I will then be seeing my balloons. X out. The accessibility checker icon will quickly update and free me of those numbers. But as I put my content together, I can easily assess if I do have any issues, and I don't have to refresh or save in order for those issues to pop up. They will pop up as the content is being developed as well. All right. Perfect. Let me go ahead and exit out of this space.